Let's also take a look at the perspective through which we should see these meetings that are coming up. Will it actually evolve in some situation or solution? Let's also open up this with my guests joining me. Matt Link, a Republican strategist, award-winning strategic commentator and political consultant, is joining me from US. Thank you so much, Matt, for joining me. We also have Dmitry Babich, who is the deputy foreign editor and the most popular site on Russian internet. He's also joining me from Russia. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me. Before coming to you, Dmitry, I'd like to open up with Matt. Mr. Matt, how do you see US will be a peacemaker as Donald Trump wanted to? Do you think so?
I think that's certainly he aspires to make that the case. And look, I think that what we've heard over the past 3 or 4 days is everything from Donald Trump is going to cater to Vladimir Putin, and that Putin is an evil genius who's going to manipulate Donald Trump, all the way through to, it's going to end up working well and everybody is going to come out of this and hug and join locked in arms and make everlasting world peace. I think that the reality is somewhere in between. I think if the meeting goes well, what you will see is that there will be an agreement to have another meeting, at which point Ukraine will sit at the table with Russia and with Donald Trump, and they'll figure out a solution to this problem. I do find it interesting, though, is that when it's important to remember that Russia has held the Crimea since 2014. That's never going back to the Ukraine under any circumstances. So I think that what is open for discussion is the land in eastern Ukraine, and whether, and how much of that Ukraine wants to keep and how much Russia demands that they want. And I think that this is a case of, having troops on the ground is an indicator that Russia is probably going to keep it. So what Trump wants to do is to end the bloodshed. He wants to stop the spigot of American tax dollars going to Ukraine. And I can tell you that while Ukraine may want to be in NATO, it is not sure that NATO wants Ukraine to be a member. So again, there's lots of open conversation here. I think what's key is that the leaders of two of the world's superpowers are sitting across from a table with each other, which they should be doing. Peace is not made by throwing verbal hand grenades on social media. Peace is made when leaders sit across the table and look each other in the eye and take the measure of each other and come up with solutions.
Dmitry Babich, deputy foreign editor and the most popular site on Russian internet, is also with me. We also have Olena Trigub, former director, Ministry of Economic and Development and Trade of Ukraine, joining me from Ukraine. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us at this hour. Dmitry, as I would like to have your reaction first. Russia is hinting that it will be a bilateral talk that will have no holds barred. There will be everything on the forefront. They will discuss it. How do you see Trump and Putin meeting?
Well, I agree with what Matt said, with just about everything that Matt said. I think that there are two mistakes that can be done. The first is to demonize Putin. We already see American television repeating all the time the pictures of Trump-Putin meeting in 2018 and saying that Trump trusted Putin more than his own intelligence. Let me remind you that it was all part of a Russiagate scandal, which turned out to be just a big fake. There is a big investigation in the United States about this fake. And it's a shame that American and in general Western television keeps repeating that. I hope that this will not be a repeat of the Helsinki summit, which was a failure mostly due to the pressure from the Democratic Party of the United States and from the American liberal media. I want this war to end. In that sense, I am absolutely in line with what Matt said. The question is, how can this be achieved? For Trump, this looks like a business deal. He called these two regions which border the Azov Sea and the Black Sea, Kherson region and Zaporizhia, he called them oceanfront property. So in the language of business people, this is the most valuable property. But we are talking here not about territories mostly, but about human lives. It's a huge tragedy, this war, for both Ukraine and Russia. And let me be clear about this. I think if Putin knew what a terrible war it would be in 2022, he would not aggravate it. But the war actually started early. It started in 2013 when the so-called peaceful protests were made in Kiev, organized and helped by the European Union and the United States. 38 policemen were killed. The president had to flee the country, saving his life. So the war started then, and 15,000 people were killed before this unfortunate aggravation which the Russian side took in February 2022. But now I think it's clear that some kind of a compromise needs to be reached. Okay. We cannot return to the 1991 borders. That is wishful thinking on the part of Western powers and the West in general. And Crimea, of course, will not be Ukrainian. Even the Russian emperor's family, living abroad and basically Western-oriented people, even they remember that Crimea was Russian since the 18th century. It was conquered by the Russian Empress Catherine the Great from the Turks. And of course, Russia is not going to cede that. So what we need is a compromise, and I hope that compromise can be reached. Not in Alaska; it will be just the beginning of the road. I agree with President Trump that the main summit will be the next one, in which I hope President Zelensky will take part. Because
on that note, I would also
end this conflict.
Sir, please hold your thought. We also have Olena Trigger joining me from Ukraine. Ma'am, how do you see this meeting taking place in Alaska without Zelensky? Should Ukraine be on the table while these talks are going on?
Well, of course, whatever Trump and Putin agree on, without presence of other very important parties of this war, first of all, Ukraine as the victim of Russian aggression, and second of all, European Union, who are Ukrainian strategic partners helping Ukraine to defend itself. Without those actors, also China is important actor who enables Russian war against Ukraine. Of course, no peace can be broken, but first and foremost, Ukrainian people, they decide that they want to defend the country from Russia, and they decide whether they are ready to give up 1/5 of Ukrainian territory to Russia or not ready. And this is in Ukrainian constitution that actually it's impossible to give part of the country to another country. So expectations are very low. I don't think anything productive will come out of this meeting. And I think that the main reason for Putin wanting to have this meeting is postponing and lifting some sanctions against Russia.
Okay. While we continue to dwell on this fact that is it a win-win situation or not, Matt, you heard the perspective. Why is the US going forward in talks with the other side while not having all fair sides on the table? US President Donald Trump says that he's not there to negotiate for Ukraine, but he's just there so that everybody can come on the same table. But do you think that Donald Trump, before going to the meeting, should have spoken and convinced Zelensky also to be part of this meeting?
No, I mean, look, the reality is that America and Russia have a much bigger and deeper relationship than just the war in Ukraine right now. There will be other things discussed. This is just what the news media is focusing on. So Donald Trump does seek to bring President Putin and President Zelensky to the same table to negotiate out a solution. However, the American relationship with Russia is a lot more complicated than just the war in Ukraine. And look, an American president has not sat down with a Russian leader since 2021. That's a really long time. So it's, again, the bilateral meeting between two of the world's great superpowers, the stakes are bigger than just Ukraine, which is a topic of discussion, but not the topic of discussion.
But Matt, we saw the meeting before as well, as Dimitri was mentioning, the 2018 Helsinki meeting between Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Do you think this time we will see a different scenario playing out?
Well, I think you'll see a radically different scenario. Mr. Trump is much more secure in his position as the leader of the free world. I think that, as Dmitry mentioned, there was the overhang of the fake Russia collusion story that has now been exposed as a Democratic plot to weaken the presidency of Donald Trump in his first term. And look, Donald Trump is as strong as he has ever been in power, and I think that he is a much greater force for peace on the world stage. And I think that the meeting today with Vladimir Putin, I think it's an important meeting not only for Ukraine but also for U.S.-Russia relations on a going forward basis. Again, two of the world's great superpowers. It is myopic to not have at least a relationship where conversations are occurring at the highest level. And that didn't happen under President Biden.
Okay. Gentlemen, as we are speaking, we are also getting some breaking news that is coming in. And as we are holding this countdown to the Trump-Putin meeting, we also have information coming in that Russian President Vladimir Putin's plane is now over Anchorage, and anytime now we'll see Russian President Vladimir Putin landing in Alaska, after which the duo with Donald Trump, he will go and hold this meeting where everything will be playing out in front of us, whether there will be a peace deal or not, what will happen. Currently, we know that Russian President Vladimir Putin's plane is flying over Anchorage. This is the venue where the talks will take place, and the visuals on your screens are coming live from Alaska, where the planes are expected to land anytime now. We'll see Russian President landing there. We'll see US President Donald Trump landing there, and then the duo will go on to engage in this high-stakes summit in Alaska, where all eyes are on what will be coming out of this meeting. And my guests continue to stay with me. We also have all other reactions coming in as we continue to build up to this high-stakes meeting in Alaska. You can see that we are continuing our coverage. We have live visuals coming in. We also have our reporters joining live from the ground. And while we delve more into it, we also have Olena, as we continue to talk about, what's expected out of the meeting, do you think that Trump and Putin will, have some kind of an arrangement? Or what are the options for Ukraine, given that Zelensky is planning to meet Macron and other European allies as well?
Well, the maximum the maximum that can happen, I think, something which I consider productive, which I give maybe 10% chance, is that there will be a ceasefire achieved, a temporary ceasefire, potentially only ceasefire against the civilian infrastructure, not launching drones, missiles on Ukraine. This can happen, but in a nutshell, it's important to understand that Putin doesn't want Ukrainian territory. Putin doesn't want to stop the war. Putin wants to destroy Ukraine, and Putin cannot even stop this horrible war that he started himself, because he created the whole war machine inside Russia, and his whole regime is now war-oriented. So this is why the maximum that we can expect is some temporary solution, but absolutely nobody expects any peace from Putin.
Okay, Dmitry Babich, how would you see it? Ukrainian side has to say that Russian president is not in the mood to go for an end to this war. How do you see what will, US present on the table that will convince Russian President Vladimir Putin that a temporary truce should be achieved now?
Even from our conversation, you see how difficult it would be to hold any talks if Mr. Zelensky was invited there, because Zelensky said all kinds of terrible things about Putin, that we have just heard. Putin said all kinds of terrible things about Zelensky. So that's why this meeting between the Russian and the American presidents is needed now. I think in this I partially agree with Olena that there can be achieved some kind of an agreement on not striking what we call an air truce, a truce in the air. Both sides would agree not to hit each other's cities and military objects deep inside each other's territory. The problem is that it's not only Russia hitting the Ukrainian territory, Ukraine also hits Russian cities. Life in the Russian regions bordering Ukraine has become pretty dangerous. Just today, there was an air attack against Belgorod, the city administration there. This is not reported in the Western press, but believe me, that's happening, and that's a cause for concern in Russia. So I think that they will start moving towards some kind of a compromise. A compromise is badly needed because this war is a danger for Europe. It's a danger for the world. Russia wants to end it. Ukraine wants to end it. Europe doesn't want to end it because the European politicians, the globalists, and part of the Democratic Party in the United States, they view this war as an opportunity to weaken Russia and to change the regime in Russia. Actually, you see at the initial steps of the American and European administration after the beginning of the very severe phase of the war in 2022, they thought that they would destroy Russia by sanctions. We see the continuation of this policy now when Mr. Trump is trying to force India to stop buying Russian oil, threatening, the tariffs.
Right.
This is, of course, illegal because all these so-called secondary sanctions are illegal. You can sanction Russia, but you cannot sanction countries trading with Russia. It's India's right to trade with Russia if it wants
Dimitri,
to.
Dimitri, as we speak, as per Russian government, Vladimir Putin's plane has landed in Alaska. That is the breaking news that we are getting in now.